Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, our continuing series where I review every single Capcom Play System, CP System Dash, CPS2, and CPS3 game ever made. And today we're taking a look at three wonders. Two of the games I really don't like, and one I think is amazing, but we're going to start with Midnight Wanderers. Before we get too far involved though, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below and hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. So starting right off, we have basically a Metal Slug or Contra hybrid sort of game. You run left, you run right, you shoot things. This game is okay. I don't love it, and honestly, this entire game package kind of feels like ideas that Capcom had that couldn't be supported with their own individual release, so they decided to make a compilation of three different games. And that's not to say Midnight Wanderers is bad, just compared to a lot of the other stuff on the Capcom Play System, and a lot of the other games in this genre, I would say that mechanically it's not that interesting. Now visually it looks absolutely spectacular. I love the sprite work, I love the environments, I love the graphical details, and all the different monsters we're fighting. The only issue I have with this game is that it doesn't really feel like it plays that well. Put Metal Slug up against this, put something like Contra up against this, and you're definitely 100% going to be able to tell the difference. This one just feels kind of loose. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of contact in your impacts. It's just a fine game. But considering there's so many amazing classic games on the Capcom Play System, having something that feels slightly weak is just a little bit of a bummer. Maybe you'll really enjoy this game. I think it's got a lot going for it as far as, like I said, the graphics, the enemy design, the music. They're all top-notch. Unfortunately, this is just the type of game where the gameplay isn't satisfying enough for me to really want to see the end of it. I mean, I definitely have beaten it, and I'm recording it for this video, but it's not something that I ever really feel like I need to come back to. But since we're playing three different games in this series, go ahead and listen to the music for about 30-45 seconds. I love talking about the soundtrack, and I'll be back and we'll go to the next game. So now moving right on, we're going to go to the middle game, and that is Chariot, and this is basically going to be a horizontal shmup. And it is decent again, but I think you can clearly tell which of the three games that I'm really going to enjoy. But jumping right into Chariot, we have the same character from the first game. The graphics are still amazing, the sound is still awesome, but my complaint from the first game in this video is the same for Chariot, which is the gameplay itself just doesn't feel that great. We've already talked about some of the amazing shmups that are available on the Capcom Play System, so to have something that's, B or C tier just really shows, because I played these games back to back. And again, I just wasn't really interested in seeing the end of Chariot. It's not terrible. I'm not really, knocking on it too much. It's just when the entire Capcom Play System library is so great, the weakest games definitely stand out. Now, had this not come out on the Capcom Play System, if this is something that had come out on the PlayStation 1 or something, it might actually get reviewed a little bit better, in my opinion. But for me, putting it up against stuff like UN Squadron and all the other shmups we've talked about so far, this just doesn't really hold a candle to any of them. But it looks great, it sounds great, there's nothing wrong with the gameplay. I just feel like it's a little bit too easy, especially at the start. I'm not even seeing enemies come onto the screen before I'm killing them. And what I like about a shmup is it has some challenge. You have to kind of learn patterns and get some memorization in, where this game, Chariot, just doesn't really seem to give you that much at all. Some of the later stages can get slightly difficult, but honestly it takes so long to get to those areas that I don't really feel like that interested in seeing them. But like I mentioned with the first video, the soundtrack is quite good. All the music in this game is quite outstanding, so I'll let you listen to it for about 45 seconds, and then we'll come back and talk about the game on Three Wonders that I think is absolutely incredible and should have had its own release. But enjoy the boss battle for a second, and I'll be right back. And you'll see right there I took a death, and that was intentional. I just decided to fly into the cloud because I wanted to see what the continue screen looked like in this playthrough. And that's the biggest bummer about Chariot. I love the enemy designs, these angry clouds here. In some ways it kind of feels a little bit like Cuphead. Some of the shmup levels in there with the animations, obviously Cuphead does a much better job of that, but it is a lot later game. But the unfortunate part is that it's just a fine shmup. But when there's so many better options on this platform, there's really not a lot worth spending your time for here unless you really want to play a shmup you've never checked out before. But this cloud boss is absolutely outstanding and is really fun to look at, and I feel like this could have actually been a good game had Capcom maybe kind of restructured a little bit. All of these games are supposed to thematically connect, but the one that makes no sense to me whatsoever is going to be the third game. But you'll see we've put that cloud down. You know, the sound is good, the graphics are good, it's fine. I mean, play it if you want to, skip it if you just want to watch the video. If you're really looking for a new shmup to play and you played basically everything else, give Chariot a try. Leave me a comment below if you really like it. But now we're going to Don't Pull. And this game, you can clearly tell, seems a lot different than the other two, and this is an outstanding puzzle game. I absolutely love this game. It looks nothing like the first two we've shown. You are a rabbit, and you are pushing blocks. The only mechanic in this game is you have to wait for one of your enemies to get into an area where they can be pinched with the block, and when you push it into them, they die. It is the most simple concept in practice, but in execution, it can actually be quite difficult. You really have to think what you're trying to do. You have to strategize. You can get yourself into positions where it can be really difficult to escape from the mess that you've kind of made for yourself. If you like puzzle games, if you like things like Bubble Bobble, anything like that, and you've never played Don't Pull, you're going to 100% enjoy this. I would have just rather had this as a standalone release. This is the type of arcade PCB I would buy and put in my permanent collection because it's the type of thing that I feel like has almost infinite replayability. You can try to get better at the game, you can try to increase your score. It has all the components of a PCB that are really going to be fun in a collection where the first two games just don't really seem that same way to me. And that's the really weird part about Don't Pull is why is it on this whatsoever? It doesn't look the same, it doesn't feel the same. It's a puzzle game. I get it, they gave you an action game, they gave you a shmup, but a puzzle game for the third one seems a little strange. I would have assumed you'd get a beat 'em up. But if you enjoy arcade puzzle games and you've never played this before, I can't recommend it enough. It is cute, it's charming, the music's great, the sound effects are good. Once everything speeds up, it gets really difficult, and that's what I love. This is a type of game that's just really gonna keep your attention, and you're gonna have to learn how it works. But short of that, that is 3 wonders. 3 games on 1 PCB. 2 of them I think are just basically forgettable. And one, the one we're playing right now, I can't recommend to everyone enough. But leave me a comment or a question down below. Have you played these games? Do you enjoy them? Do you agree with my opinion? Do you think I'm completely full of crap? Short of that, I will be back next week with another video in the Capcom CPS Play series. And we'll have videos throughout the rest of the week as well. Like I mentioned earlier, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And we'll see you guys next time. Poor rabbit. Bye-bye.